Yeah, I think it was a really good opening weekend for us. Started off during our preseason. It was obviously a tough preseason. The heat has been higher than it's normally been, so to try and conduct some practices in that heat has been tough, but I feel like our athletes have handled it really, really well. We came through preseason fairly unscathed. We had a couple of minor injuries, but everyone's pretty much been available for each game so far. So through our 2 exhibition games and our opening weekends, we've nearly played every player that's been available. Due to their efforts and what they've earned on the field, not because of the heat and not because of just trying to play everyone in a non-conference or an exhibition game. They have been competing since we returned in January, and they've earned that efforts. And I think that paid off yesterday. I think that rolling into Tennessee, the travel was obviously the first thing that this young squad had to get used to, and been able to travel and get their legs under them to go and run around in a competitive game for 90 minutes. And I felt that they handled the adversity well. We're a little inexperienced in some moments in the second half, and that caused us to concede a goal and tie the game. But I think overall we took a lot of positives and then rolled into Sunday. Sunday's game, obviously we executed a game plan really well against a tough South Florida team who had just beat LSU on Thursday. We knew that we were going to have to be more defensive in the game. We knew that we had to execute a disciplined game plan. I thought they'd done it really well. And then on the transitional moments into offense, I felt that our athleticism and our speed and our intelligence on the ball really allowed us to have some opportunities in the first half that kind of wore them down, that eventually led to Megan Bradley's goal in the second half. So overall, really happy with the first kind of 4 games that we've had under our belt, as well as the month of August right now, getting used to the training load and the heat for the young squad that we have. We'll leave now on Thursday to go play Grambling, who'll be really tough. They beat Murray State on Thursday. They're going to be always a tough and athletic team to beat, especially at their home field, and then travel across to play SFA in the return leg from last year. So 2 tough opponents coming up as well, and we're hoping that we've learned enough from the first 4 games that we can now go back on the road and learn from those moments and handle our opportunities a little better.
You had said that kind of traveling was something to kind of get used to. How beneficial is it having 5 of your first 6 on the road?
Yeah, that was part of the game plan, is to do that, because there's no way to get used to the travel and being able to figure it out, then go and figure it out, right? We can try as much as we want in practice. We can try and set up an environment, train late, train early, make it as competitive as possible, but nothing quite feels like it than going on the road. So it's an opportunity for us to, after every game, just regroup, collect our thoughts, figure out what worked for us and what didn't work for us, so that we can prepare, because as soon as conference comes, we go away to Texas State, and then we're away to Old Dominion the second game. So the travel's not going to get any easier, and it's something we're just going to have to get used to.
Coach, I hear that the heat, it didn't affect your practice. It hasn't affected your practice routines, or did it change some?
It changed some of it. Yep, it changed some of it. Obviously, we had to do some different things on some different days so that we could accommodate to the volume that we had to get in. That's part of preseason, is you want to make sure the body is used to the load, and we're doing all the tactical stuff that we need. So there were some days where we broke up sessions, or we had to go smaller, we had to use the indoor, we had to do some of that stuff. But the athletes responded well to it, and we've got a lot of athletes on the team now that are from Texas, Mississippi, Louisiana. So they're not used to this heat, but they're used to the heat enough that they can accommodate to it, and they've handled themselves really, really well.
Coach Emma Bates, I believe it was her first career goal that she got yesterday. Is that something that you've seen from her throughout the preseason and coming in, and just how big was that for her confidence to be?
That was huge for Emma. Emma faced a lot of adversity last year. She came in as a freshman in January, so didn't even have a fall season. She came in straight in January and hit the off season and the ground running. So this was her first competitive time, and we're really, really excited about her. She didn't play a lot of minutes last fall, and what she grew from last January all the way through in her first full off season with the staff, she's really put in a lot of work, and I'm really proud of her, because she's changed her game. The international game is a lot different than the domestic game, and she's adapted to the physicality and the speed of play really well, and she's developed really, really well, and I'm proud of her.
You talked about yesterday's victory based off your defense. That was your game plan going into Stephen F. Allstate and Murray State. What are you expecting, more for defense or more of an offensive game plan?
I think what we have to look at right now is that we are a tough, gritty bunch, and I would assume after yesterday's game that teams are probably looking at us thinking they're going to be really hard to break down. So we're going to have to find a balance between playing the way we did, but also capitalizing on our moments in possession a little bit better. Obviously, we know that not all games are going to be like yesterday, where we're going to have as little as the ball as we did. but we're going to have to make sure that when we do have those moments that our mindset doesn't slip. We have to treat every team on the schedule the same way that we went into USF. So we have to defend as a team. We have to make sure we're working hard off the ball. We have to make sure we're competing in every moment and we stay gritty. And if that happens, then I believe that the opportunities on the offense will come. I don't know if we'll get more of them, but we just want to make sure that they're higher quality when we do.
I know you're ready to turn the page. I know you got a big win yesterday, but you're a very young team, but you beat a very good team in the heat like that. What can you say to you about your team and the praise that you give that?
It goes back to January when we come back in the off season. The win yesterday didn't happen because of practice this week. The win yesterday happened because of the workload and the training that this young group of women have put in since January. They worked their tails off last off season, and that was the first time, as a staff, we got in here last March, and we really only got kind of 4 weeks with them, and it was in games, so we couldn't really do too much. So they had the 6 weeks at the start of the spring, and then they developed and they put in a lot of work, and they grew tremendously in the spring, and we saw that from some of our spring games as well when we finished the spring tying Mississippi State. So yesterday's result is a product of the last 8 months, not just of the last week. So it's a continual effort of them just constantly putting in the work, doing the mundane tasks day in, day out, is what led to yesterday, I believe.